school students kneeling for the national anthem as they perform at a Seattle Mariners baseball game. So the question is this the type of politics we want to teach our kids as young as 5 years old? Here now to weigh in is U.S. Army officer and opinion writer Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy, thank you for joining us this morning. You saw the video. Photos of this have been sent out over the internet on social media. Colin Kaepernick retweeted a picture that had these kids kneeling during the anthem. My question is, I mean, they're in elementary school. At what point, whether you believe in what Colin Kaepernick is doing or not, at what point is it too young for these kids to actually know the meaning of their actions?
Exactly. I mean, children are being taught a political agenda before they can even learn basic American history. I mean, it's just so incredible how patriotism, something that used to bind us together as Americans, now somehow tears us apart. And so it's so incredible just seeing how this story really shows just the cultural divide taking place in our country, where in some parts of the country, at least where I was raised, we were taught to cherish our country and to love where we came from and to appreciate the freedom that we have here. And then other parts of the country, clearly, they're being taught the contrary. And so it's really important that those of us that do cherish where we come from, that we pass that on to the next generation, that we teach the importance of patriotism to the next generation. This is something that must be safeguarded as we go forward in our country.
We do have a statement from Catherine Carbone-Rogers, a spokeswoman for Seattle's Highline Public Schools, and this is a statement to Huffington Post that says, obviously, the school district respects the First Amendment rights of our students. It's an individual act by the students. In your opinion, do you think that kids are being taught enough about patriotism these days?
Oh, no, not at all. But even worse than that, they're not being taught the same American history that many of us were brought up learning. They're being taught a lot of this revisionist history, people looking back in the past and basically talking so much about the sins of our country and then not talking about the benefits and the good things that we've done in our nation. And so it's so important. And you know, Frederick Douglass famously said that it's easier to build strong children than repair broken men. And so that's why it's so important that education, that those of us that do know the truth about our country continue to share that. And of course, we've made obviously, you know, a share of mistakes in this country, but we have to believe that the heart of our country is just. And that's something that must be passed down to the next generation as we move forward.
What is your thought on the fact that it's just about 2 years ago now that Colin Kaepernick started doing this when he was playing for the 49ers, and now here we are close to 2 years later. He is, for the most part anyway, most of the time removed himself from the situation, and then you see things like this popping up all over the country, like these little kids who are kneeling now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it definitely seems to be a trend. Obviously, it started last year in the NFL, and then now we're seeing children kind of mimicking a lot of this now. You know, I don't know how long this particular form of protest is going to stick around. I think it's a very poor form to protest the country. I mean, obviously, we honor our First Amendment rights, but I definitely wish that there was a different way to do that other than disparaging the national anthem of our country.
What would your advice or what would you say to kids who wanted to learn something about patriotism? What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing is to learn that, listen, we live in the greatest country on earth. We have made mistakes, but the DNA of our country is one of goodness. And so it's so important that we remember that and we safeguard our democracy, because this idea is something that must be passed down. It's not something that we can just fabricate or make up ourselves. It's something that must be taught and appreciated and understood at an early age.
One of goodness. Good words there. Jeremy Hunt, thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.